Everybody, Creative Katie here. Welcome to my channel. Today I have another art journal tutorial for you. Be brave enough to be bad at something new. So one of the questions that I was just recently asked in my Facebook group was like, how do I start? I'm frozen. I can't get started. And the short answer is you just simply need to start. So make one decision. Pick a color or several colors. And that's where I started with this one. I decided that I wanted to go yellow and orange. I grabbed my file folders of collage papers and gel prints, and I pulled out some papers and I ripped them, and I'm just kind of putting them on the page. I have no idea about focal image that I'm going to do or sentiment or anything at this point in time. I'm simply making one decision to start off with the colors. So I've got some lights, some darks, there's some orange there, there is some quinacridone magenta on some of these, some purples, some deep violets, not a lot of yellow. Making a mental note, I don't have a lot of gel prints that are yellow. I don't use a lot of yellow, but more and more I need to do that. As you can see, I'm switching the orientation. I'm not even sure. The papers that I'm putting down, some are on copy paper, some are on coffee filters. And I like using the different weights of papers. And I'm just applying this with my Liquitex matte medium, which right now is more my go-to than the gel medium. I find for collaging things down, it really works well. I'm just building up layers. And as I'm doing this, my mind is just, I'm looking at the patterns that are in here. I'm looking at the colors, and as I'm moving my paintbrush back and forth, I'm just enjoying the moment of creating. And like the quote that I've chosen that I end up choosing, be brave enough to be bad at something new. You have to risk in order to grow and to learn. So picking a different color combination, picking a different technique. Know going in that the likelihood that you may not exactly hit a home run, go with it. Be okay with that. I know that if I'm trying something new, I'm going to learn something. And I won't learn that unless I try that something new. And you have to trust that if you follow the steps, you're going to figure it out. So this has turned out a little bit more orange, a little darker than what I wanted. So I just grabbed my gesso and my makeup sponge, and I'm applying gesso through this uh, screen view stencil. Now it's the white. You could use white acrylic paint. I wanted to use gesso. It gives a little bit more texture, but not quite as much as modeling paste. And this kind of unifies what's on the bottom, all those papers, as well as it pushes the color back and lightens it. And I'm really liking the effect of it right now. Now, I wanted to have yellow in here, and since I didn't have any papers, I thought, okay, I'm going to do some stenciling on here. This is Celtic Design, and I'm just putting this little motif on here with the yellow. I was going to paint what you see as white space yellow, but again, I decided, I'm going to change it up and try this. At the very least, it's going to add one more interesting pattern, one more interesting layer. But it really lightened it. And I mixed the paint, the cadmium yellow, with the gesso. And I like that because it dulls down the yellow to a point where I like it. Otherwise, I've always struggled with the cadmium yellow. So that's a trick I've been watching on videos, people mixing whatever color with gesso. It just makes a creamy, yummy colors. So I've got Cobalt Violet. This is a golden paint, but it's very similar to Deep Violet by Liquitex. And I want to add a little bit, the next level of layers. So I have this stencil, which is Native Star, and I'm putting that on. Now, when you're layering stencils in various ways, you can't fall too much in love with something at whatever level you're at, because often you think, oh, I love it the way it is. I don't want to. What happens if I wreck it? Be brave enough. Because if you don't take that chance, you're never going to know what if. And more times than not, I end up with something that's better than what's in my head. Like this. I absolutely love this. And I did think about stopping at this point. And it would have been great. I would have done some outlining where I put the purple to make those pop and become focal points. But I didn't do that. I decided I wanted to add another layer of stencil. I didn't honestly think about tracing out the purple part with black at this point. Had I done that, I may have not done what's coming next. So I have the stencil, Native Star, in the 12 by 12 stencil. And I thought, okay, I'm going to stencil on top of this, and I'm going for contrast. I don't want to introduce any other colors, but I've added some white. Now I want to add some black. Contrast is really key. And I thought that when I put this on that I'm going to get basically my focal image for the page with this dark black stenciling. While I got contrast, it didn't stand out as much as I was hoping. It was okay, but I'm unsure at this point in time. So I'm just continuing to play. I'm thinking, okay, let's do some shading around the edges. And I grab my woodless charcoal pencil and I'm going to frame this. That's going to add some of the dark around the edges. That's going to go well with the stenciling that I just did with that stencil. And maybe it'll all come into focus. At this point, I don't know even which orientation I'm going to do, if it's going to be horizontal or vertical. So I grabbed some sentiments, be scared and do it anyways, and I'm auditioning the fonts, the sentiments, the composition. So I'm thinking, you know what, I've got a colorful page. Now, maybe I'll just put the sentiment on there and the sentiment becomes the focal image. I love my quotes and that will totally work. So I'm quite happy with that sentiment and that orientation. But I'm thinking, I want to push this back just a little bit. And a quick, easy way to do that is to do some splatters. And I'm going to do those in a minute. But I decide I want a little more detail in the back just to unify everything. And I'm just using a script stamp. I wanted something small scale that is just kind of there. And it's unifying everything underneath. Because right now I'm really fighting with everything is great, but it doesn't seem to be cohesive, if that makes sense. So again, that was a good step, and I've got different fonts here. And I wanted to put that in. So you see there is a lot of additioning. There is a lot of trial and error, back and forth. Now I just want to talk about the colors. If you're using these colors, yellow, orange, and this deep violet, this purple, the yellow and orange are across the color wheel from the purple. When colors are across the wheel, they're going to look really good together. They just don't necessarily work well when they're wet. And you'll have noticed that when I put the paint on, whatever paint was already there was dry. Some of it was from collage papers, so that was completely dry. So I've never mixed any of these colors wet on wet. So I glued my sentiment down with gel medium or matte medium. And now I'm just taking my woodless charcoal pencil and outlining the sentiment, kind of grunging it up a bit so it doesn't look quite so pristine, and it always, when it's so very white, it just stands out and it doesn't look like it belongs. Now remember, when you put the charcoal on, that is non-permanent. So if I put any wet medium on top of that, I have to be careful because I will smudge it and I will get that black all over the place. Now I thought I was done. Here's where I go and I grab some thin white acrylic paint and my fan brush, and I'm splattering white. And I got a couple blobs on top of the letters here that I didn't want to block off the letters. And this unifies everything underneath in much the same way as the script stamp did. It just covers everything and ties it all together. And if white is good, I wanted some bling, so I splattered with gold as well. When I splatter with two colors, I'm always sure to make sure that the first color is dry because I don't want those to mix wet on wet. So I thought I was done. I took off the tape and I'm looking at it. And then I look to the side and I see this pile of circles that I have. And I grabbed a couple of them that were the orange with the purple on them color. And I put them, in the centers there. And I thought, oh, that brings a lot of energy to this background. And then I keep flipping through that pile looking for more of the same color, yellow, orange ones. And I keep adding more of them to what I thought was my finished page. And I really liked how this all came together. It kind of gave your eye someplace to go, pushed everything else further into the background, and just made it all, in my mind, work better. So I'm gluing those down with gel medium. And then I come in with my charcoal pencil. This is General's charcoal pencil. And I'm shading around this starburst from the stencil underneath. I just want to bring out that little portion of it, and around the yellow-orange circles. And I'm happy. What was missing in the page, I didn't know, but then suddenly with the addition of these circles, it just all came together. And instead of going beside the circle, I am now doing the charcoal on the surface of the circle to get it a little bit darker. Again, I want those circles to really stand up from the background. If this was on a canvas or if I was going to varnish this, I would spray this with the fixative first, a workable fixative, and then do the varnish so I don't end up with smudging. Now it's late in the afternoon on a cloudy Vancouver Island day, and so the light's kind of going, but I'm continuing on. Now, I had those two circles in the middle of a purple stencil background from this Native Star stencil. And I thought, well, too bad I didn't have more of these. And it occurs to me, I could. So I masked off the center and I'm stenciling in more of those purple circles. Everywhere that I've put an orange circle, that's what I'm doing. So sometimes you feel that your page is done, but you can always add to it. Sometimes the ideas don't come all at once. But now that I've gone through this, I would absolutely use this stencil with circles deliberately on purpose as a planned page because I love, love, love the effect that it gives. And as you saw, I have a pile of circles. So again, while I'm doing this, I'm saying, okay, Karen, the quote says, be brave enough. Be brave. Take a chance. It is paper and paint. That's it. So right there, even more of a focal image has appeared with the addition of that. So the lighting is really bad, and I did shade around those with my charcoal pencil. And then I wanted to add a little bit of brightness. So I grabbed my white gel pen. This is Sakura. It's a 10. And once this is completely dry, it is permanent. And it's a bold, it's the 10 size. So I'm quite happy with this, but you do have to, if I wet it now, I could take it off, but I need to make sure it like dries overnight. So there's the finished one. Now here's where it was when I was ready to say this is done. And here's where I bumped it up in 2 different steps. So go out, be brave enough to be bad at something new because you're going to learn and you're going to progress. Love the warm tones that we get. Check out the iCards. Check out the end cards for related videos, color schemes. Give me a thumbs up. Leave me a comment. Bye for now.